Hello, this is Craig from bitsbox.co.uk. In this video, I'm going to review the Citadel brush line. Okay, so I bought a complete set of Citadel brushes, which are here, when they first came out. I didn't want to review them straight away because with something like this, you really need to use them for a fair bit to really have some good opinions on them. And by now, I think I've definitely got some opinions on different types of brushes. I know which ones I really like, I know which ones I really don't like. So I thought I'll share that with you guys. I'll start off with the scenery brushes. As you can tell, they haven't been used yet. This is probably more likely to be used by painting my walls rather than any scenery. It is just a brush you can get at any hardware store really to paint your walls, cutting in around the edges, etc. I don't know how GW expect us to use it with one of these little pots. Even by putting them on a palette, you just pour half this pot on a palette and that's actually a right mess. Don't know why we'd really use it for Citadel paints. Any other paint line what you might want to use to paint terrain with, I'm sure that'd be great. But if anything's really big enough what needs this, then, you know, why not just get some coloured spray or an airbrush or something. I'd probably rather use this one, but even then it's still a large brush. So yeah, I really can't see myself using these anytime soon, so I'll just discard them for now. So where to begin with the rest of them? I'm going to start with the shade brushes. I hate the shade brushes. These are like sponges on sticks. You dip these in a shade wash and they just absorb the shade and like hardly any of it will go on your miniatures. Now I can see why GW have done this, because you don't want to just slop loads of shade on your miniatures. It's always best to use it more controlled, but I don't know, you waste so much of them with these. And of course everyone will say that's what GW want you to do, so you buy more, and maybe that's true. I don't want that to be true, but it probably is. So yeah, I've used these a couple of times. I hate them. I just do not like the shade brushes at all. As I said, they are just like sponges. They will just absorb the paint. And if you want to do it, especially if you want to do a heavy shade wash, then just avoid them. Just use a normal brush. You don't need a different brush for all these types of things, but we have them. And we have a glaze brush. I haven't actually used this for glazing. Again, just use a normal brush. I'm sure it's a fantastic brush. It looks pretty nice. Has quite a good tip on it. But, you know, you don't need a brush to glaze stuff. You just use a brush. What you do need special brushes for is dry brushing. And we have these. Now GW did have dry brushes before, and they were very weird. I always wondered why they didn't have a flat end on them, and these ones do. Much better for dry brushing, in my opinion. So we have a small, medium and large. Really good brushes. They will need to be cleaned with brush soap after almost every use, because the paint will just stay up in the bristles, and sometimes, you know, if there's like red, if you've been dry brushing red, and then you want to dry brush a few days later with like white or something, that might mix with the red. It might not be 100% dry, and sometimes you might get pink or something like that. So it's always worth trying to keep these clean. I know they're only dry brushes and they're not, you know, they're not meant to be kept nice, but I do recommend just trying to keep the paint out of them if you want to make the most of them. I quite like the dry brushes. They do a job. Again, you could just use any old brush for dry brushing, but before I was using these, I was just using some cheap brushes what look the same as these, just old synthetics. They still do the job, so you don't need to spend GW prices on a dry brush, but they're there if you want to. So yeah, I wouldn't say anything bad about them, but there are cheaper options out there, as with all brushes, I suppose, really. So next we come to the base brushes, and I don't like the base brushes. This one's been used a lot on my Fire Raptor before they decided to release Citadel Air Range. So you can see there's lots of Avalanche Sunset on it. But the actual bristles themselves are pretty clean. They're quite nice bristles. The two larger brushes I actually quite like. I think they're alright. I have issues with the smaller brushes, and like I've barely used this medium one, but you can sort of see there the bristles are just all over the place. These are just ugly, horrible brushes. Same with the small one. You know, why not just buy some cheap brushes for base coating? They just really just like, they just look like really old brushes. Like, I've only had these for a couple of months, but they just look terrible. They're just all sprayed out everywhere. That's probably partly down to me, of course. Getting paint up in the ferrules, never a good idea. But they are base brushes. If you're just base coating, you don't need expensive brushes. You can just use any old crappy synthetics if you just want to just do your first base coat at least. Obviously, when you start getting into other areas and other colours, then yeah, you want to be a bit more careful, of course. You could do that with layer brushes. So I have small and medium layer brushes here. I actually quite like the layer brushes. They're good little brushes. These are the ones I use the most. The small and the medium layer brushes. You can see they've kept their tips really nicely. And on the small one, very nice. Yeah, I really like these brushes. Pretty much on par with the old GW brushes that we've used before, like the fine detail, standard brushes, etc. If you like them and you use them, these brushes are just as good. So yeah, really like the layer brushes, and the artificial layer is my favourite brush. Of course, it's the most expensive brush, I believe. This is the extra small layer brush. It still kept its tip really well, even though I've got paint up on it. I just really like this brush. It's great for fine detail. Yeah, it's expensive, but you can, if you want top quality brushes, you're going to spend a lot of money on them, and you know, I think this brush is comparable to like a Winsor Newton or other sable brushes. I think it is good. If you look after it, then that'll keep its point really well. This one has. So yeah, really nice brush. I'm really impressed with the layer brushes. Out of all the GW brushes, it is just really the layer brushes that I really like. All the others can either be replaced with cheap brushes or just not even needed in regards to the shade brushes. I just hate them. So yeah, so if you do want to use the little brushes, get the layer brushes and then just buy any cheaper brushes or whatever you prefer for other stuff. Of course, not everyone will use different brushes for different things. I'll dry brush on the side. I think most of us might just, at some point of our lives, have just used a single brush for everything, and then maybe gone in with a finer brush for really small details. I think that's probably the best way to be, really. It does seem interesting having a dedicated brush for glazing, and dedicated brushes for shades. Even though they're awful, it's like you don't need them even if they were good. So yeah, really good brushes, but do take care of them if you spend any money on, like, proper money on brushes. You know, if you're just buying cheap throwaway brushes, you haven't got to be as careful with them. But if you are spending the money on GW brushes, the Citadel brushes were expensive, then just make sure you look after them. Use brush soap frequently, and just make sure you don't just dip them straight into a pot, and they will keep their tips really nice. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say on the Citadel brushes before I start rambling on anymore. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon.